What's up, internet? My name is Kyle, back with another episode about cameras, tech, and all that good stuff. Today we are going to review the Pergear 50mm f1.8 manual lens. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. And first things first, yes, I did indeed get a haircut. My girlfriend gave me a haircut after filming the last video. Had a hat on, super long hair and everything like that. So thank you to my girlfriend Meg for doing that for me. I feel so much better. Also, big shout out to Pergear for sending me this lens for free. This is the second lens they've sent me, and I really like working with them because they're like, hey, you want a lens to review? We don't care what you say. Here you go. Personally, I'm somebody who's not going to do a review on a product where I am told what to say or anything like that. So anything that I review on the channel, lenses, cameras, anything like that, I've either bought with my own money or it was given to me with no stipulations. So with having that said, thank you Pergear, you guys are great. And let's talk about this lens. So one, this is a 50mm focal length, or around a 75mm equivalent for a full frame. They make it for micro four thirds, Sony E mount, and they also make it for Fuji X mount. So you can definitely get this for a bunch of different camera bodies, which is really nice. And it goes to an f1.8 maximum aperture. Minimum aperture is f16. And then as far as minimum focusing distance, it's 0.38 meters or 1.4 feet. Now this lens is all metal from what I can see on like Amazon or Pergear's website. These lenses for the APS-C lineup of cameras seem to be all metal designs, which makes them a little heavier than the norm. This lens comes in at 221 grams or 7.79 ounces. And for, comparison's sake, the kit lens for the Sony A6000, the 16 to 50 power zoom is 115 grams or 4.09 ounces. So this is almost double the weight of the Sony kit lens. Now, since it's all metal, it feels great in your hands. It feels like a piece of machinery. Its build quality is awesome. As far as looks, it does look different than the 25mm Pergear lens that I did a video on a couple weeks ago. If you want to check that out, I'll link it down in the description. And also above, I really liked the 25mm lens, and we'll get into how much I like this lens, the 50mm. As far as looks go, this is more of an all black style lens compared to the 25mm Pergear f1.8 that had more silver, kind of that chrome look to it. This is just more like Bruce Wayne, black on black on black, except for near the mount. Now, if you're not familiar, this is a manual lens, meaning it has no electronic connectors on the rear side of the lens that connects to the camera. So your metadata for what lens this is and stuff like that will not show up in Lightroom. There's no electronics to tell the camera, hey, it's at f1.8. So just keep that in mind in case you didn't know that. So something that I failed to mention in the 25mm Pergear review was that the lens tube actually extends when you're focusing, short distance, long distance. The tube, the inner tube extends, and I'll show you what I mean. So the most outer metal piece here is the, inner tube of the lens, and when you focus to a closer distance, the tube extends from its original point. And then when you go focus to a further distance, it retracts back to its normal size. This isn't a huge deal for me, but no, if you're putting this lens on a gimbal and you're, using manual focus, it's going to change the weight distribution just ever so slightly. And on the 25mm Pergear lens, it is less of an extension. So the 50mm extends further than that lens. Now, some of Sony's autofocus lenses don't do that. The lens does not extend in any shape or form, which is great. But then this lens has distance markers on the actual lens, and most manual lenses do, where it tells you how far you are focused to the focus plane. So that's an advantage, but the disadvantage is that the barrel, extends out and the weight distribution changes. Okay, so that's some of the specs, the nuggets of information about this lens. Let's jump into some photo examples and let me know what you think down in the comments. Okay, so those were some example photos, and I have more photos to show you in a second, but what are you guys thinking? If you watched the previous Pergear 25mm lens review, you can see that those photos, have a wider feel. Sometimes I'm up close and I'm able to get more in the frame, and that's because of the focal length. So 50mm is more telephoto, or something I like to say, it's tighter, it's more focused in, so it's going to give you a different perspective, and in different situations it's going to work better than 25, and vice versa. I was very, very surprised how much I liked the 50mm. I thought I was in love with the 25mm, and I still am, but it was really, really fun to use the 50mm. I'm really enjoying using manual lenses more and more. Obviously, autofocus on the Sony A6000, the 6100, all of the Sony cameras is phenomenal, and it makes us better photographers with better technology. But using a manual focus lens with the right feel to it, and these Pergear lenses have the weight and kind of just that quality feel. It's a lot of fun. So let me show you some portraits that I was just taking before this video. I was experimenting with different things, and I did some self-portraits. I was using the Sony Imaging Edge mobile app. I was able to see what I was taking a picture of. Now, with a manual lens like these two Pergear lenses, I was not able to adjust the focus. So what I did was I used this whiteboard here, which is a bounce card for me, and I made sure the focus peaking, which I used the blue color. I don't know about you guys, but the blue color is just easiest for me to see. And I made sure it was focused right up to this point. And then I moved my chair and sat where that point was on the whiteboard. And then I moved my whiteboard, or, bounce board, whatever you want to call it, and then got that out of the shot. And I nailed focus. It took me a couple tries to get that, but once I got it and I was able to see it using the mobile app, I was good to go. And I'm really surprised by the quality of these self-portraits. I was kind of stunned. I was like, wow, this is just 80 bucks. Slap that on your, budget camera, your A6000, and you can take these phenomenal photos. And I think that is really great for the accessibility out there for people who want to dive into photography. And yeah, so that brings up the point, like, if you don't have a manual lens and you're, eyeing, $400, $500, $600 lenses and stuff like that, take a step back and maybe look into a manual lens. Autofocus is amazing. Sony autofocus is, one of the best, if not the best. But getting a manual lens is kind of fun. And these two manual lenses I have another one. I've had others before. I'm thinking about just using them more often. Now, a con with manual lenses is that you can't be as quick sometimes. Obviously, autofocus is in a snap, especially Sony's. So you can capture more things quicker and maybe easier per se. But having manual focus makes you slow down a little bit, take your time. But sports photography and stuff like that, you might need an autofocus lens and not a manual lens. I wonder if anybody's out there like shooting like the Philadelphia 76ers and in a live NBA game using a manual lens. I doubt it. I really doubt it. Maybe that's a challenge for like Jared Polin or something to try out. I don't know. This lens is $80 on Amazon, and I believe it's $80 on Pergear's website as well. It's a perfect budget option. It's under $100. It's a fraction of the cost of, say, like the Sony 35mm f1.8. Obviously, it's different. It's a 50mm, but it's more than half the price of the Sony 50mm for the Sony A6000. Okay, so let me show you some shots to give you a preview of, the Pergear 25mm and the Pergear 50mm. So right now is, Vegeta, one of my favorite characters from Dragon Ball Z. Shout out to the anime fans out there. Anyway, he's standing in front of some LED lights, which are a few feet behind him to get that separation behind him. Now, this other photo, which I'm going to show you right now, is the Pergear 25mm f1.8 at the same distance. So both shots I shot in the same spot. I was like leaning on my coffee table. The camera with the lenses on, same exact distance between the camera and the pop vinyl. So just take that in, realize what 50mm looks like, what the bokeh looks like at f1.8, and then what it looks like for the 25mm at f1.8. Clearly, different point of views and things like that. So that's what you got to think about when you're like, do I want 25mm or do I want 50mm? I get that question all the time. Should I get the Sony 35 or should I get the Sigma 16? They're completely different in what they show you in your image. So just something to consider. You know, this is what the 50mm looks like. This is what the 25mm looks like. Also, this is what it looks like when I try and replicate what the 25mm looks like with the 50mm. It still looks different. However, this is as close as I could get them to look the same. And obviously in this instance, the camera and the lens are not in the same place. There's a couple feet between where one shot was taken and the other shot because of the difference in focal length. So overall, I really like the Pergear 50mm lens. I think the 25 and the 50mm are great little companions. Not sure which one I'm gonna end up using more at this point. Maybe I'll have to do a little lens battle further down the line and let you guys know which one I picked. I'm probably not going to do a review on the Pergear 35mm. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Maybe I will down the line, but I did a video, you know, 3 manual lenses under $100, all 35mm, 3 different ones. So link up above or link down in the description if you want to check that out. That is it for this video. I love this little 50mm lens. I'm probably going to keep it on my camera for a little longer and keep using the manual lenses. How about you guys? Do you own any manual lenses or any vintage lenses or anything like that? Let me know down in the comments. Let's talk about manual lenses today. And of course, thank you guys so much for checking out the channel and checking out the video. Hope you learned something, hope you liked it, and I hope you come back. As always, I will see you guys in the next episode. Later. I was using the Sony Image Edge Mobile. Dude, that's such a weird friggin' thing to say. Imaging Edge Mobile. I was using the Sony Imaging Edge Mobile app. In my opinion, that's the worst app name in the world.